Okay, this is Crypto Big Deal in the house, talking to my Crypto Big Deal posse, trying to make you a bigger deal. Okay, so today's Tuesday. So what we found is Elon Musk has blown Bitcoin through the ceiling, really, and it hasn't even started to slow down. What I want to show you here is what Elon Musk is doing with Tesla. So I wanted to explain to you exactly what he's trying to do, and then you can see how many companies are doing this already. Elon with Tesla aren't the first to do this. They're becoming adopted. And then the next big company you're going to hear is going to be either Amazon or Apple. This is just going to be huge. It's just going to become a thing that you do with your money because of inflation and losing 15%. We'll go into a interview with Michael Saylor, who runs MicroStrategy, who's got one of the biggest holdings so far. And this is obviously the guy that did that playbook. He did the conference on Wednesday and Thursday, and it was seen that about 5 of SpaceX employees, head of finance, part of the treasury, the big decision makers of SpaceX turned up for this conference. Michael Saylor was only expecting something like 15,000 people to log in. It got to 40,000, and then there was obviously people streaming it on their YouTube channels, like myself I have here, was streaming it live, and that went up to another 20,000, 30,000. So, and people are still watching it now. People who didn't get a chance to watch it live or watch it when they could are still watching it now. And there's some people have been told to watch it twice because it's so eye-opening and thought-provoking that you need to watch it more. So I just wanted to go through here, but you got Square here, who's owned by Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey is the owner of Twitter. So this is where he's starting up his big corporation and stuff. You've got Mt. Gox, which was what started the hype in the first place. I mean, look how much Bitcoin is still left in there. But that was what got hacked back in just before, I think it was 2013, 2014 or so. That's when it really sort of fell apart. Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, this is what I've been telling you about as well. Grayscale, they just keep buying more and more Bitcoin than to be in mind, as well as obviously when you've got MicroStrategy, Galaxy Digital Holding, which is the Mike Novogratz one that we're talking about. Great guy, you should look him up, he's brilliant. Okay, so look, I just wanted to go into a video that Michael Saylor did today. There you go, 2013. He was talking back then, days are numbered. It seems like just a matter of time before it suffers the same fate as online gambling. Okay, let's continue with this interview and see how he defends himself from this. Has been one of the biggest buyers of Bitcoin now.
Bitcoin's days are numbered. It seems like just a matter of time before it suffers the same fate as online gambling. And then you're well known for having the epiphany last year in March when you saw the devaluing of the dollar. But what was it exactly, or how did you get back into Bitcoin?
As they say, everybody gets Bitcoin at the price they deserve. It's true. It's always true. Everybody's a skeptic until they understand it. Bitcoin's a paradigm shift. Albert Einstein died not believing in quantum physics. So even brilliant people, they see a paradigm shift in the way you think about money and the way you think about digital assets and the like. And they have to come to terms with it on their own time frame. I think I think the catalytic moment for a lot of people was March of 2020. I mean, I think there's almost 3 stages of Bitcoin, right? There's up to March of 2020 where it was really the visionaries and the true believers, that carried the torch, and they went through hell, right? The fork wars, the crashes, the excessive volatility, all the anxiety about how will the IRS deal with this, how will the SEC deal with this, regulatory issues, copycats, Mt. Gox, etc. That was the first stage. I think the entire world locks down, and you have a V-shaped recovery in Wall Street and an L-shaped recovery on Main Street, and we call it euphemistically a K-shaped recovery And everybody has to really check their premises and reconsider what they think is the relationship between monetary policy and and economics. And
then so basically what he's trying to do is explain and say that once you understand the technology, then that's when you the adoption. But like I said, it's Bitcoin. You get Bitcoin at the price of when you get Bitcoin. So the sooner you get it, the better the price. The later you understand it, the more expensive it's going to be. So I just wanted to finish on something else as well, because obviously there is that fear of like governments aren't going to accept this. If you're going to try and replace the currency or the pound or the dollar and become the world currency or the world economics, let's just hear what they say here, because this actually makes a very good point. That we're not trying to replace money. This is actually trying to replace gold, but it explains why. So let's listen to what he says, okay? And then we'll finish up there quickly. All right, all the best. Let's go listen.
Do you think that the regulators are now going to look at this, like the interview that said on CNBC, and say, hold on a second, these people are actually trying to replace or actively replacing the US dollar with Bitcoin on their balance sheets? And certainly if that's the case, the governments aren't going to be lying down and going, you guys just go and keep buying your Bitcoin and replacing the US dollar. How does government respond?
I think it's really not a very constructive way to think of it. It's not a currency, and we're not replacing the dollar. We're replacing gold. And people ought to be really focused upon the fact that what's really happening here is this is an asset. It's a crypto asset. And for the alarmist, there's nothing wrong with assets. I mean, it's quite legal and appropriate for companies to own property. Bitcoin is property in the eyes of the IRS. Bitcoin is property in the eyes of the SEC. It's property throughout the Western world in the same way that you could own an acre of land or a stand of timber or a truckload of oil or.
Okay, so you can see what he's trying to explain is just saying, and it's basically saying that Bitcoin is actually a terrible form of currency. Every time you use Bitcoin, you basically get charged tax on it as well. So the moment you move it from your holding to buy something else of it, you get taxed of it. So he said it's actually a terrible form of currency, but it is a great store. It's like owning land or owning a big chunk of oil or something like that. And it's just seen as a commodity and it's a store of asset, but it's the best invention since human history. I mean, he really goes into depth about that, and I think it's worth watching a lot of the stuff that Michael Saylor says, because he really has a good way of communicating Bitcoin. As for myself and that, I'm learning and then trying to then put it into concept of like what this is. And when something is brand new, it's very hard to explain where the benefits are. It's going to evolve into its uses and best case use of using it or storing it or maybe borrowing against it. Like if you have assets, you could go to the bank and say, look, I have this, can I have a loan? And if I don't pay back, then my Bitcoin will be at risk, but you only then pay a small percentage based on borrowing off your Bitcoin. You could then learn to live off it for a long time. And there's other ways on DeFi as well, which I will want to go into, because I really want to go into that. But I need to find a better way of explaining that, because that gets even more complicated. But we'll see where Bitcoin goes from here. Okay, so this is Crypto Big Deal, trying to make you a bigger deal. Checking out, and I'll see you very soon. All the best. Stay cryptic.